Okay, so the MVO2 is like the hot topic, right,
It
in
really
the
is.
fitness world right now. It
Like
is
one of
like
the number one longevity measures.
yeah,
Right? Yeah.
and there's I think in some ways there's some things that are happening that might be a little bit of a disservice, and so I'll speak to those first, and
Sure.
we'll talk about like recently these two big studies came out, 100,000 people, 700,000 people, looking at VO2 max and basically, along with a bunch of other variables, trying to find out, what is the best thing that correlates with longevity. And they found, okay, VO2 max is super, super important for longevity. And so that's hard, good evidence. Like we've got a lot of evidence on that. But, sometimes that actually can freak a lot of people out, right? Because they're a little bit concerned. I'm getting some people that are a little bit concerned, and there was some avoidance of taking the test because they're scared. What does this mean?
Right. If I get a bad test.
If my test is bad.
Right.
Oh, that's
right?
interesting.
That is
Yeah.
interesting.
Now, like there's a group of people that are like, I want to know, give me the test right now.
Of
Let's
course.
do it. I was kind of like that, but I actually wanted it before, the longevity, the real hard data around longevity came out.
I would guess too, that's a small group. It's interesting.
Small group that wants to do it. Yeah.
That really want to jump into it because let's face it, the test isn't fun.
No, it's
generally it's a test to max effort. The other thing that I found interesting, as I was researching this, there's a lot of disqualifiers for the test if you're an older person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that then in some ways people are happy to read that. They're like, oh, I have ventricular or atrial fib. Oh, I shouldn't do the test. Okay, great. I'm out. I'm never going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we've talked about this before when we're trying to test people and when you're testing a population that are not athletes, because I think we need to understand that these tests were originally developed for athletes. And the word max is to test an athlete and say, how's your training going? And it was usually endurance athletes. We did it for years when we were doing our kin degree.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal was to see like who had the highest. Like we were looking for numbers in the 60s and things like that, where it was a test done on really fit people. Now it's all over social media.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over TikTok. And I think that it's really important to acknowledge that this test is not always for everyone. There is a submax option. Can you talk to that a little bit? Like maybe you don't want to jump into max. Maybe you want to do submax and get used to it.
Totally. And I think, the submax test, the info that it gives you, it loops back to that training smarter, not harder, right? That the training smarter, not harder scenario where it's like, okay, at certain heart rates, we get to find out whether you're efficient or not with your metabolism at exercise at that pace or heart rate, right? And so if we can, let's talk about the zone 2, right? Zone 2 is huge. It's very, very, popular right now. There are great ways to estimate it. If you don't have a test, we can talk about that later. But one of the beneficial things about this, submax test is you actually find out hard data on where your zone 2 is. And for me, although I was trying to use the effective estimates, I was like 20 beats per minute off.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you above or below?
My zone 2 was actually 20 beats per minute higher than what I was training at.
Oh, interesting.
So that's not a terrible scenario. It's usually the inverse is worse.
Yeah.
Is when you think you're training your zone 2.
Right.
Which is actually probably more
common.
Yeah, more common.
For sure.
Is where you think you're training your zone 2 and you're actually, training your lactate threshold, right?
Right.
And you've blown past the, benefits of training the more slow twitch aerobic fibers and the cardiometabolic benefits you're going to get, the benefits for diabetes and stuff like that. You've blown past those. And the thing is that we kind of got into this scenario in the fitness world where it's like, how can we be as efficient as possible? And so, certain workouts became very, very heavily, favoring HIIT, high intensity interval training, right? And so, everyone's going after the, Peloton's high intensity spin class, Tabatas, like how can I get the most, in the least amount of time?
Yeah.
And I think that people, there's a tendency to do it in the fitness industry. They take that and they go way to the extreme with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now we're missing, I get people coming to me all the time where they've got this, terrible zone 2 and they're experiencing, anything from overtraining issues to sleep disturbances to, weight gain, to blood sugar fluctuations, because they're constantly training high intensity. Like that's all they're doing 3 days a week, high intensity interval training, no low aerobic steps, no other work to kind of support that stuff.